Hey everyone, it's the Leaf Collectivo where we speak to some amazing people and share honest stories on direct to consumer brand building, e commerce marketing, and work culture in this modern era. So, in this episode, in conjunction with International Women's Day, we're going to explore the phrase women in tech. I'm YeeLin, head of content at Leaf, and today I'm joined by some of our very own women in tech, Helga, our co-founder and CTO, Sophie, our lead software engineer, and Ikra, our senior QA engineer. So together, they build tech and lead our team in driving Leaf's mission in becoming the preeminent performance solutions tech company for online retailers. So, ladies, let's start this conversation with you introducing yourselves and maybe just sharing a little bit about how you got started in tech. Maybe Helga, let's start with you.
Yes, my name is Helga. I've been in the tech industry, I believe, more than 10 years now. I started, I guess, in the coding side of things when I was in high school. When I joined one of my first kind of like optional courses, and yeah, like ever since then, I guess like I was amazed about how can you build the stuff out of an idea of whatever you have in mind. So yeah, that's kind of like pretty much how I started.
Wow, that's amazing. What about you, Sophie?
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm a software engineer lead in Leaf. I've been working in Leaf for 4 years. Before that, I used to do freelancing for web design. So I actually ended up studying software engineer because of web design. I took some courses of web design after high school, and in there I realized like, okay, this doing the website is quite cool, but how can I do the cool stuff, the logic behind it? Like, I don't want to depend on someone else to do the hard part. So that's why I decided to study software engineer. So that's how I started.
Nice. What about you, Ikra?
Yeah. So, hi, I'm Ikrali, and I'm leading the quality assurance department in Leaf. I have been doing software test automation for like last 4 years, and when I Mike basically how I stuck. So in tech, so my family wanted me to be a doctor, and then I started taking the classes too when it was like after the high school for the medical. And then after 1 week, I realized this is not clicking me. And so I just came back and then I did some research and I had some interest in maths. And obviously, then maths is one of the basic courses that we definitely have to study for the computer engineering and stuff. So then I decided that I should try with the computer engineering. And then I continued from there.
Wow, amazing. From potential doctor to like QA engineer. I really love that. The fact that you're actually still in STEM. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for introducing
I,
yourselves.
I have a
And
curious question. So do you had like doctors in your family before?
Yeah, we had one, and she is like brain surgeon. So she was kind of competition that look at her, you have to be like her, and something like that. And that was the thing was, I was kind of inspired. I really wanted to be a doctor because my brother wanted me to be, but then my mother wanted me to do what I really wanted at that time. So she gave me like, first you decide what you want to be, and then I got the opportunity. So
wow, that's amazing that she really supported you. Now, let's discuss women in tech. This is such an overused buzz phrase, I mean, for me, and it brings attention to gender inequality in STEM. So, if we look at gender diversity in tech, women are still underrepresented, we're underpaid, and yes, we're also discriminated against in the tech industry to a certain extent, which I feel is a shame because if you look at reports by big companies like McKinsey, for example, they say that diverse companies like Leaf perform better, we hire better talent, we have more engaged employees, and we retain workers better than companies that don't focus on diversity and inclusion. So we have all this research showing that diverse teams perform better and are more innovative. And leaders across different industries recognize that this is good for business. But even today, if you look at the large global tech companies, only about 30% of their workforce is made up of female representation. Maybe less than 25% of tech leadership positions in Fortune 500 companies are held by women. So while there is progress, it's kind of slow. But I guess the important thing is that, yeah, there is progress and we are moving forward. Which brings me back to women in tech, right? We use this phrase a lot, but what does it really mean? And not everyone looks at it the same way. So I want to know how you feel about it and what does it really mean for you to be a woman in this historically male-dominated industry?
It's quite interesting. I always thought, like as like in any area of any industries, when we say women in tech or women in, I don't know, medicine or women in business, like I feel like a goal in mind is to just have it like people in tech or people in business. Like it doesn't matter. Like when we get there and we stop focusing on like, oh, is she a woman or is he a man or is he a, like when we stop focusing on those details, I think that's when we are going to win. Let's say, like once we see it as a normal thing, instead of like a out of the box thing. Yeah, because it is true. Like there's a lot of when I was in uni. I don't know if it happened as well with Ikra and Helga, but our classes were like 80% male, just like 20% women. All of our computing classes were like that. I don't know if it happened to you. I think Helga always mentioned to me that it happened to her, but I don't know, Ikra, if it happened to you as well.
No, it was like 50-50, but there was just one thing. If boys have to take the notes, so they have to take the notes only from girls. So that was the thing. They are very good in theory, but when it will come towards the like practical stuff, the coding, so yeah, they would have to come to us. So that was the very uh, like commonly accepted concept over there. Like girls has to be just in the theory things, not something cool, not something hard. So yeah, but it was 50-50.
Mm, quite interesting.
So what does that mean? Like if I don't know, like there was a project, then what tasks were delegated to female and what tasks were male?
Yeah, it was just till the first year when they didn't see like girls can do all those kind of things because they are in computer engineering, obviously, because they wanted to be, because they really understand all the programming stuff. Then obviously, yeah, they understood that they can also do the backend programming. They can also write the code. They can also do so the equal stuff afterwards. But just that was the concept initially.
Yeah, it's quite. In my case, like I had one professor that always, when he did the groups, he always tried to place at least one woman in each of the groups, because he realized that like we are a little bit more attention to details. We detect things sometimes that they don't. So he realized that when there was a group that was only guys, sometimes it was a disadvantage for them. Like if we're trying to like compete on the best project and stuff like that. So he always tried to actually know at least, like he couldn't do like, because it was not 50-50, it was like 80-20, of course. Like he can put like maybe just one woman in each of the groups, and groups of 4 or 5 people.
And do you
um,
think that that helped?
I think it did. um, I think it did.
In
I
what
think
way?
yes. I think we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. Every person, not only because of gender. So I feel the more varied it is a group, I always feel like the less loopholes, or like you kind of fill out the gaps of weaknesses, let's say, because everyone's different. Everyone has like their own strength. So I always feel like variety is always going to be a positive thing, let's say. in all case scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally true. What about you, Helga? I'm actually quite curious to understand your view on women in tech because you're a CTO and you're also a co-founder of a tech company. So actually, you're part of a very, very small percentage of women that have achieved that role. And yeah, whether or not this is because of any disadvantages or just because they have not taken that step forward, there is a very small percentage of women in a leadership position like where you are right now. So yeah, what's your view on the phrase women in tech? How do you see it?
Yeah, perhaps kind of like just to add on what Sophie just said. I think it's very like a very, how you say, like a very satanized, if you will, word on where kind of like it is used so much in the press and everywhere where we read it, but it's more about, well, are we filling up a quota and just kind of like hiring to get a 50-50 in this? Are we kind of like, what is the end goal? Because if at the end is to kind of like have diversity in thinking, and then that perhaps in the morning I as a female, then I might do some things that my counterpart won't do, say for instance makeup, then that will make me think into other perspectives that my other male's counterpart don't think about. Then I think it's more about how do we, I guess, like merge those variety in thinking, and also not only because of I guess my day to day, but it's also about my, I guess, everything that composes me being a female, right? And not only that, but also that there comes a little bit of more complexities, which is, well, I'm a Latina, right? And then I have different, way different kind of like beliefs and kind of like culture than you, YeeLin, right? And then how, when we start working together, is how do we, like merge those two different worlds and coming together with just one kind of like proposition of working, right? Um, so yeah, like in general, yes, I do believe we need to, I guess is more about checking and seeing that like we need to start from the beginning, right? Like from when you are a child, when you are 4 or 3 years old, and then how do we start thinking and even just pairing up with the, I guess, even like um, similar games that boys have available that perhaps females don't. I don't know what you think, Sophie.
Yeah, in that sense, that's quite interesting. I always think like everything in, like when we try to strive in equality, I always think it always starts with homes, and like when you're little, and with parents. Sometimes you see parents that it's not their fault, because of course it's hard to get a mentality out of your head. But in Costa Rica, it happens a lot that, I don't know, in families, like when you have daughters and sons, sometimes they make the daughters like, oh, you have to help me in the kitchen to cook, or you have like stuff like that. And the brother is sitting there playing video games, and no one tells him like, move your ass out of the couch and help in the kitchen as well, like we're trying to make dinner or stuff like that. And I feel like every little stereotype like that, it starts in homes. I feel it's very important that the new generations, and I feel that that's why change is going to continue coming, because I feel like our generation is quite open-minded in that, and we have seen it a little bit from our perspective. Like it still happened to us, but we can see a little bit more like the light. So I know that when our generation have kids, they're gonna raise them a little bit different, and then they're gonna raise their kids a little bit different. So I feel like every time, hopefully, that gap's gonna close and close and close until everything looks like normal. Like it doesn't matter like where you come from or who you are. Or so I quite think that everything starts in homes as well.
I would just add on that cultural thing that Helga was mentioning when I was thinking about the women in tech. So I think this is definitely a very sensitive topic and people for lots of people because uniform principles obviously cannot apply towards throughout the world. Obviously, the things like which really matter to the people in Asian countries for the women, obviously they would be little different than the women in Europe, for example. So, but when people talk about equality or something, so they try to just think equality and they just try to start comparing women with men. That the things that they are having, the wages, the time hours, the flexible time hours they are having, women should also have it. So it is kind of sometimes going in the wrong direction. But for example, but when the people, I was like reading some articles, and the people who are taking it right and then making some good progress, as Yiling was mentioning, so they first understand what are the cultural differences, and then depending upon the culture, they make implementation within their companies. So this is like really important because I remember when I was working in Pakistani company when I started my career, so there were a few mothers, and they wanted to have their kids along in because they wanted a daycare in the same company. So they wanted, you can give us a room or something, because the daycare concept is not that much preferable back in my country, because they think no, the kids should be along with their mothers no matter in which sector they are working or something. But here in Europe, I have found like the mothers are quite open. Like they are quite satisfied when they hand over their kids to the daycare center. So first, we really need to understand, and then we can make the good progress. Of course, the culture after understanding the cultural differences and the needs that women really have culture wise.
Nice. Actually, that's something very interesting that you brought up, cultural diversity. I actually want to bring up the fact that Leaf is one of the most culturally, racially, whatever diverse companies that I've worked with. And I have worked with some really amazing companies in the past. My previous company, we also had a female CTO actually. And then now I have Helga again. So it's been amazing. I believe that our tech company is made up of almost 60% women, and we are also spread out across the world. So, this is a question for all three of you. Coming into Leaf, and you're also actually leading how we are building the team. So, what initiatives are we making, or what is our thought process when we are building that team? Maybe Helga, you want to take that question?
Yeah, maybe the one that can really tackle this question is Ikra. The reason is that, or the last, I guess, in the past 6 months, we have been looking. Well, we were looking for a QA engineer, and then the process of looking for that engineer took a quite long, kind of like I guess like hard to find a QA engineer. So maybe she can give some insight about how was that process for the person that we hire right now, and then that kind of like Ikra gave the green light on it, because it's quite interesting.
Uh, about leave, yes. I totally agree. Before hiring, like because the QA team has like four girls, and we are known as girls power. So and we never like never did it. It was like not deliberate. It just like happened unconsciously. Like we had interviewed 5 to 7 different male candidates as well, but then it just like okay, we found a girl that for the that QA position. So apart from that, I will definitely come back to this point of this hiring thing, but I would like to add about the inclusiveness in leave, that definitely when I joined, so Helga asked me explicitly that I have to book the prayer timings in my calendar, because then you should not be disturbed by meetings or something else. And I really liked it, because previously I have been working with another European company, but it was a freelancing. And then they know, and in all hands, like, we have there are always mentions for the Eid ul Azha, Eid ul Fitr, and the other Muslim holidays that we used to have. So, like, not just us, like the other Indian holidays, for the Hindu religion, and for like all the other people. So, like, this is the inclusiveness. And for the hiring process, yeah, when we had it, so there was a candidate who had a gap for like 5 years in her career. For like, she was taking time to upbring her kid, and then she was like really not comfortable joining another company. She was like, I'm not sure if I'm suitable for this position or not. But then we all were like, no, you should do it, because not because we are giving you an extra favor or something, but it's like you really deserve it. And that was just one thing. And after joining, after a few months, she was feeling like really comfortable with the Leaf environment. And she was feeling like, I still don't understand that I really got this opportunity and how everybody has welcomed me here. And just after a few months, we had to hire another QA for another department in Leave. And there were, throughout the process, like, it was the thing that her pregnancy due date was in few of the months later. And this thing literally did not impact her hiring process. And I was thinking that we really have to be transparent with both of the processes, both of the sides. But when I spoke about it with Helga, Glory, and other people in the company who had to make the decision, it really, like, I was really surprised, because I have read multiple times on LinkedIn from the Dutch companies and Dutch HRs too. So it's not just the Asian thing or something that we really have to be very critical about. Oh, she will be busy, or oh, she will not be giving her 100% or something. But these things really do not matter in Leaf when it comes to like women specific things. So yeah, it was really good experience and surprised me.
That's quite interesting. What that about the pregnancy? I remember something that I really like. I don't know if you know, but in Iceland, there's like in all work, like there's more women in the country than men, and they have a lot of equality. Let's say like they're one of the most uh, equally gender countries in the world, and one of the things that helped that equality in the workforce is that they gave the exact same obligatory like a maternity leave or parenting leave for women, for dads and moms. So even if you're the one giving birth, the dad also has the same the same time off, let's say, as the mom, and that made all the difference because it doesn't matter if you're hiring a man or a woman. Like if their partner or themselves are pregnant, like it's gonna be the same for both. So it takes that thing off the hiree, let's say, from their mind that it's not like it doesn't matter if you're hiring a man or a woman. Like if they're gonna have children, they're both gonna have like the same time off to take care of the baby. So I feel like that's also very important. Political wise, that's maybe a little bit far off for some countries still, but hopefully we can see like life proof that it works in some of these countries.
Yeah, even I believe like there are some. I think one of the bits that is helping a lot is the movie industry. Why? Because you see now, and you see, say, for instance, Encanto, the last Disney movie, where actually the superhero is a woman, right? So it's kind of like these things where you believe, well, actually, I could be a superhero as well. In the past, right, when I was a kid, all the superheroes were men, right? Or say 98% of all of them. And so, kind of like, like it's just changing that perception that you could be the one, really running or really, doing stuff that perhaps in 20, 30 years before, that was not even in your thinking, because not even on the TV or on the cinema you would see it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's very
that's quite
true.
true.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think like when it comes to gender disparity in the workplace, of course there have been different scenarios where you're treated differently, perhaps if you're of a different gender or of a different race. And I think some of the issues that women have faced when they enter the workforce, especially in the tech industry, it could be, whether there's a lack of women in the hiring pipeline, or there is an affinity bias in the hiring process where most of the hiring people were male, so they would look for more guys to hire, or there might be lack of support for female staff, or lack of internal support and mentorship, especially. And one of the bigger issues is the pervasive tech bro culture that women have to deal with. So I was just wondering whether you ladies have seen these issues happen in the workplace, or maybe you have a female friend that has experienced these issues in the tech industry.
Well, for myself, I've been very lucky because before Leaf, I just did freelancing by myself. So Leaf is actually the first company for like I've worked with, and of course, we already talked about like all of the different benefits about working for Leaf and its diversity. So I've never encountered that issue that much. Like I've never felt it in Leaf. I've always had female managers. I had one male manager, but still he was amazing. I never felt like any discomfort with him, and I feel like that's a very important case that you're making about like the more women we have in positions of power, or I don't like to see it power, like just positions of leadership. I think it helps out from the top to the bottom, but I don't know. Yeah. Do you have any other experience, maybe Ikra or? Mhm.
I had when I was working in one of the companies. So I used to sit late only when there was a release time or something. But I was the only a girl in the team. So, and then my manager used to tell me, you don't have to sit late. You can definitely continue with this thing tomorrow or something. But I I was feeling that I'm accountable to do this thing because now this is the release time and I really have to make sure that I'll do it. And I was comfortable going late nights. Uh, so the point is, when we try, and they were always like supportive. I don't have to sit late. If I'm sitting late, they would have to arrange the driver and everything, and they would make sure that I'm reaching home all safely. But in rest of the days, I had to make sure that I'm giving my 100%. In those times I should not compare that, oh, I'm girl, I get tired like quickly than the boys in my team or something. I should give equally as they are putting. So if they are putting like their 100%, if they are sitting late, so I should also sit late if there is something like that. So people would think about you. People would definitely care about you if you will make them care about yourselves. So if you will put equal efforts, then definitely they will realize that we should also care her as a girl, not as a boy. That they will definitely go and something like that. So we should change our mindset if we really want to talk about and challenge the equality.
And what about you, Helga? Can you share your experience?
Yes, I think like I've been like during the university period, I, same as Sophie said at the beginning, it was very male dominated, but that didn't, like, I guess, stop or kind of like disable me on doing like part of my knowledge. Like, I mean, like, always there's gonna be people that is gonna say, like, things, but it is on your side of things if that affects you or not, right? And then it's more about what are the things that you can control in yourself, and what are the things that you really like, people are gonna talk always, right? So it's more about, like, what are, out of all those things, will affect you, and what, like, out of all those things or advices of that people can give you, it can apply to your life, right? So it's more about, taking everything on your life with a grain of salt, and then start, moving, like, with a very open mind, that at the end, even if someone kind of like, you believe that it is not being fair, it's perhaps because they haven't had the opportunity to really be empathetic, on your shoes, right? So yeah, it's more about how do you, navigate, difficult situations, with also empathy from the other person. So yeah.
Then I would want to know, do you feel that this is still an issue, being a woman in tech?
I would say we're not there yet completely, but we have to be patient at the same time. Not patience, but like if we look back 50 years from now, like in the past, there were a lot of things that, like right now, we would be shocked that they were happening just 50 years is like our parents' time. Like it's not even generations that are still alive, let's say. So I feel like change is slow sometimes in history, um, and women actually are part of the workforce not so long ago in history. Like maybe World War II is when the boom started. Um, so it's interesting to see like how much actually we have achieved in such a small amount of time. Uh, but I don't think we are still there yet. I think there's a lot of ground to cover, and like having this podcast right now, celebrating Women's Month. I think that could also be a testimony. Like we're maybe not there yet. We still need to speak out. We still need to share our stories, so people can relate. But I feel like we're in good progress, let's say, of getting there.
We are, yes, we are in really a good progress, because in 90s, when this whole Women's Day and these kind of things started, women did not have rights to even vote. They were fighting for like bread and peace. They did have like really serious kind of problems, and now obviously gradually, but there are like where we are now. We as we are saying that we have been very lucky, we didn't have these kind of discrimination and all, but yeah, people still face these issues. Progress was slow, but yeah, there is very clear progress, as we all are evident of it.
Yeah, I think the key here is actually to keep encouraging women to pursue whatever they want. Let's say, I think that's the key in everything, because if sometimes women feel like maybe, oh, if I want to have a kid, for example, in 5 years, maybe I shouldn't like try to get that position, because then I'll be very busy, and maybe when I have my kid I won't have time, or like sometimes that even mentality stops them when you just should go for it. Like at the end, um, being a mom or not doesn't have to be even a topic at the moment. Like you'll figure out when you get there. Like they'll be all right. They'll be fine. Like it doesn't matter. Like right now, I feel like society is evolving. Like Ikra was mentioning, like she got to Europe and she realized that it's not even that bad. Like you had to like to take your kid to daycare. Uh, and they'll be fine. They grow up fine. Like they won't be traumatized or anything. Like, they'll be normal people, and they'll actually be like probably they'll see that they have both parents being professionals, being successful, and no matter what the kid is, they're gonna be probably is looking up to that. So I think like that's actually a good thing.
And what would your hope for the future be? Or if you are part of any initiatives, especially like in terms of female empowerment, like what would that be like?
um, we should start taking the responsibility that if I am lucky enough not to have challenges in my life, in my workspace, so they should, maybe other people can have. So we should start like from our family first. And then there are always some small groups, like obviously on Facebook, on Twitter, where people are asking for help, they are asking for suggestions. For most of the time we think that our suggestion wouldn't help them, or why should I just spend some time to explaining my opinion to them. But they do make difference. There are a lot of groups on Facebook like female expats in Europe, or women in tech in Europe, or something like that, or in general. It's not in just in Europe or like throughout the world. So like we can share our experiences over there. We can answer their questions students are having, or the juniors are having.
Yeah, from my side, yeah, that's exactly what I envision. I always think of my, I don't have any kids, but I have a niece and nephew, two nephews and a niece. And I'm always thinking like, ooh, they could be anything. And I always thinking of my niece, like I always try to buy her, like last Christmas I bought her like a, Wonder Woman, like a doll that she really likes, and I always try to like, oh, let's watch this movie of women empowerment together. Like I always try to push her into like doing whatever she wants. She's really good at sports as well. She's very physical, so uh, I'm talking with my sisters to see maybe she should go into football, or maybe she's because she could be really good. So in that sense, I always feel like we should push our kids around our family to to more successful roles as well. Um, and for the future, like my perfect future would be that this wouldn't even be a topic. Like women in the work industry is so normal, and that it's not even a topic anymore. Like that's the goal. I feel like it's not even a question of who you are or where you're from. Like it doesn't matter. You're there because you're good, you're qualified, and you make a good job at it, and that's it. There's nothing else that needs to be said. But yeah.
Yeah, I think in my case is about kind of like being relatable, and in the sense that if in the near future we could either generate content in any way, say YouTube videos or books or articles that can relate to however you are, depending if like on your interests and your kind of like on where you come from. It will make it easier for our future generations to look at like to look up for someone that can be very similar to me, that actually can was able to make it. So it's more about how do we create those avenues of people really documenting their story, because at the end of the day every story is unique and inspiring, on how do you get here, right? Even in this moment, the four of us, with various backgrounds, in terms of personal lives, like, and even sharing, I guess, this combination of I guess, even cultures, and just being, I guess, like, relatable, right? Which is one of the nicest things. So yeah, I guess, like, the more we look at movies, documentaries, series, everything that at the end of the day can relate to you, would be better for a bright future.
Thank you so much for sharing, Helga. I think from everything that you've all shared, throughout this episode is that what we want to see is change. We want to make sure that we keep progressing to the future. And all this takes is just a little bit of action from all of us, just one step at a time. And while we are seeing a lot of initiatives around the world, what I think the important thing is that we have collaboration. And actually, one thing that happened earlier, Wes and Gil run this podcast. They are our main hosts. And when I said that I wanted to take over, Wes was really concerned because he's like, I really love that idea, but I don't want to have you just come out for one episode. As if like we're just releasing the women for a day and then after that we're making them hide back in a room. I want you to continue doing this if you're up for it. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. So even having him, my male counterpart, like be aware of this and actually be a part of that change, pushing me to having that opportunity, having that say, that is already saying to me that, hey, we're progressing. And I feel like that's an amazing future that is already happening right now. So thank you girls so much for joining me today. If you like this episode, please show us some love and follow us on our socials. And if you haven't watched our previous episodes yet, please do so. This was us from the Leaf Collectivo. Pura vida!